All right, so today in Objective 8.2, Properties of Parallelograms. So we just started our polygon unit, and we learned that any polygon that has 4 sides is called a quadrilateral. However, there are some quadrilaterals that have very special properties, and these special quadrilaterals are given their own names. The first one that we're going to start with is a parallelogram. So a quadrilateral with 2 pairs of parallel sides is a parallelogram. If we wanted to write the name of a parallelogram, you use the symbol. This symbol looks like a little parallelogram, and then you use the 4 corners or the 4 vertices of the parallelogram. And you want to make sure that it's the opposite sides. So the opposite sides here are AB and CD. Those sides would be parallel. And then the sides BC and DA would be parallel. There's a couple of other properties that are worth mentioning. These are 5 properties that will be repeated throughout several things. The first one, the opposite sides are parallel. So remember that these little marks that look like an arrow indicate parallel, and these double marks also indicate parallel. The different notation is just so that it identifies which 2 sides are the ones that are parallel to each other. The opposite sides are also congruent. So that means that these short sides are congruent, and these longer sides are congruent to each other. Opposite angles are congruent. That would mean that this green angle is congruent to this green one. And then we'll do orange for the other 2 that are congruent. Typically, you're going to see these little marks. But I also like to use color for you guys. Consecutive angles. Do we remember what the word consecutive means? Consecutive means side by side. So consecutive means side by side. So basically what it's telling me is that the green angle plus the orange angle would equal 180. So let's do some little note taken down here. The green one plus the orange one would equal 180. And then the diagonals bisect each other. So if I drew in some diagonals, drawing these diagonals in red, this right here point, that's where they intersect. Bisecting each other means this piece and this piece, those 2 that I just marked, would be congruent, and also this other piece would be congruent. All right, and basically what's going to happen is you're going to be given some images, and you're going to have to use these properties to solve some algebra problems. So we'll start off with this first example, CDEF, parallelogram CDEF. DE is 74, so I'm going to label what I know. DG is 31. And the measure, so this is how I'm reading this, guys. The measure of angle FCD. So that's this angle here, is 42. And now it wants me to find three things. I gotta find CF, the measure of EFC, and DF. So, CF. CF is opposite DE. So that means, by definition, DE and CF are congruent. So CF would be 74. Let me put a degrees there. EFC is this angle, EFC. Now, what do I know about the consecutive angles? If the angles are side by side, they would equal 180 degrees. So 42 degrees plus the angle that I don't know equals 180 degrees. So really quick, we're just going to subtract. Let's clear my calculator out. We're going to subtract 42 from 180. And we get 138. So angle EFC is 138 degrees. And now we got to find DF. Okay, so DF is this whole diagonal. I've got 31 degrees, so what else would be 31 degrees if this is a parallelogram? Yeah, if DG is 31, then GF would also be 31 because diagonals bisect each other. So that means that DG is going to be the same size as GF. So 31 plus 31 is 62. So the math really is that easy sometimes. It really is that straightforward if you remember the properties. All right, so now we got like a little bit of a 3D picture here. It's a basketball goal. In parallelogram KLM, which is the brace part, LM is 28. LN is 26. So the whole thing here is 26. And LKN is 74. All right. I need to find KN, measure of angle NML and LO. So first of all, KN. KN is opposite the side LM, so KN is also going to be 28. And that was easy enough. The measure of NML, that would be this angle. Oh, that's not showing up. That would be this angle right here. That angle is across or opposite the 74-degree angle. And let's see, I think I had a rule about that, so let's go see. Opposite angles are congruent. That's my third rule right here. Opposite angles are congruent. So that means NML would also be 74 degrees. And now, let's see, we got to find LO. So let's clear out some things here that I don't need. LO. So LO, let's see if this one will show up, is this piece right here. It's just one side. Now, there's a rule about things being bisected. If things are bisected, they're in two equal parts, which means this side would be congruent to that side. If the whole thing is 26 and two equal parts, that means I say 26 divided by 2. That gives me 13. So that means that LO is 13 and ON is 13. So 13 will be my answer. All right. So now we're going to jump to a couple of algebra type problems, and let's see what we can do with these. WXYZ is a parallelogram. I need to find YZ, and then I need to find angle Y. So first, let's work with YZ. So here's YZ. And what I know is that YZ and WX are congruent. Now this go around, I don't have numbers, I have these algebra expressions. And so what I need to do is, if these things are congruent, things that are congruent, I set them equal to each other. So now I've taken these two expressions and I've created an equation that I can type into Desmos. So 6x plus 10 equals 8x minus 4. X, or A, will equal 7. Is 7 my answer? No, 7 just tells me what the value of A is right there. So now I'm going to say 8 times 7 minus 4. And just because I don't want to mess up and get this problem wrong, let's type that into the calculator. 52. So YZ is 52. Now we're going to do something very similar to find the angles. Okay. So here's angle Y. That's what I've ultimately got to find that. I don't have anything with that one. However, from the definition of a parallelogram, I know that Y and W are congruent. Okay, if Y and W are congruent, and I have an expression for W, and I've got an expression for Z, what do I know about Z? Well, I know that if I add W and Z, if I were to add these two angles together, it would equal 180. So I'm going to write an equation. Let's do it in red this time, just so we've got a contrast, or green. Let's use green. So I know that 9b plus 2 plus 18b minus 11 would equal 180 degrees. All right, 9b plus 2 is the orange circle, and 18b minus 11 is that blue one. And when I add those two together, it equals 180. So again, I've taken these expressions and I've created an equation that I can type into Desmos and solve for. So now 9x plus 2 plus 18x minus 11. So yep, those are my two angles. When I add them together, they equal 180 because they're side by side. Again, x is 7. Seems weird. Let me double check. Yep. So B is 7. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes you can get a different answer for each one. That was just random the way this one happened. And again, B is 7 is not my answer. That just tells me that right there, I'm going to say 9 times 7 plus 2. I don't want to mess this up. I've come too far in the problem to make a stupid mistake. $65. All right, so that is 65 degrees. So I have to figure out how I can give the information that I'm given to solve the problem that I'm looking for. It's super important that I read the question and make sure that I answer it correctly. Last example for today. EFG is a parallelogram. Find FH. Okay. So I need to find FH. Well, let's see here. It's bisected. And since it's bisected, I know that 4z minus 9 equals 2z. Not real sure how this is going to help me just yet, but let's figure it out. 4x minus 9 equals 2x. X equals, or z equals 4.5. Great, now what? Did I answer my question? No, I'm looking for FH. So that's a good thought. I'm going to substitute it right there. I'm going to say 2 times 4.5. That's going to be 9. That means this side is 9. These are bisected. They're equal to each other. So if one side is 9, the other side is 9. And to find the whole thing, I would add the two pieces together. So 9 plus 9 equals 18. Second example, JG. JG is just this highlighted part. Again, I'm going to go through the same kind of thought process. 3W equals W plus 8. That's going to give me an answer for W. W is 4. So if W is 4, that will be 4 plus 8. So JG equals 12. And that's it for today.